and we discussed about the basic things: what is meant by flame, what is the need for the uh, flame protection, and what is the nature of the uh, importance of the fire safety, and the legislations and burning. What is a burning we discussed. Then the importance of the fire triangle, how dangerous it is, this interaction of this fuel, oxygen and heat, how it leads to generation of fire and heat. And the important strategy is to break the fire triangle. Either you have to cut down the oxygen supply or change the property of the fuel, because textile material itself is a fuel, because it contains flammable elements like hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, etc. So then we discussed the compression cycle of how, when you heat the fiber, how what type of reactions take place, and in order to provide flame retardancy, how you need to control the pyrolysis, that we have discussed. And then we have seen some important definitions of what is flame resistant or what is flame retardant, then fire resistant or fire retardant, and fireproof. These things we have discussed. And finally, our discussion was on limiting oxygen index, we discussed. Then our lecture was completed last week. So today we shall move further. We have last week we have seen the importance of also we have seen the hydrogen to carbon ratio. How much is the value of hydrogen and carbon ratio? If the value becomes higher, then the material becomes highly flammable. Okay. So for the good flame retardancy, to achieving the good flame retardancy, the hydrogen to carbon ratio should be lower. That also we have seen. So today we'll move on further uh, discussion on heat and flame protection. So there is another important thing called heat flux. What is mean by this heat flux that we are going to see? Heat flux, it is the flow of energy per unit area per unit of time. Okay, how much heat is flowing across a particular material. For example, this is a material. You can see there is a rectangular portion here, and if you are just giving some heat over to this material, the material has some thickness over it, so that how much of heat is flowing uh, across a particular area in a particular time. Okay, so that is called the heat flux. So this heat flux, you see, it is expressed in the unit of say watts per meter square, because it is the amount of energy that is flowing per unit area of time. So if you see, what is the importance of this heat flux in this heat and flame protection? You see, any textile material, uh, if you choose for a particular end use where you require the heat and flame protection, you need to know how much is the heat flux that you are applying. See, for example, in laboratory, if you are doing a flame test for the particular fiber like polyester or cotton, you may use some matchbox to lit a candle or a stove. You apply some, expose it to some flame, but you do not know how much heat is flowing, how much heat intensity, what is the intensity of the flame, that you do not know. So how to quantify them? That is the called the heat flux. How much of the heat it is flowing in some particular area per unit time. Okay, for example, if the heat flux is around say 25 kilowatt per meter square, okay, it is a very less amount of heat intensity. In this heat intensity, for example, for dangerous fibers in terms for the textile thermoplastic fibers, which are highly dangerous when it is exposed to flame, because it melts or drips, those kind of fibers. At this heat intensity, it may not immediately start burning, it may not immediately ignite, but it can promote the physical transition. Okay, you know very well about the nature of the thermoplastic fibers. At normal room temperature it will be glassy, and when you apply higher temperature it transforms from glassy to rubbery stage because of the glass transition temperature. So at this less heat flux around say 25 kilowatt per meter square, uh, normally the material morphology changes. Say it may become soft and may slightly start melting. and it will reach this pyrolysis stage where there is a formation of some flammable gases, and after these flammable gases only, with the exposure of oxygen, the material will start to burn. But here the heat flux is less, so at this heat flux it may not easily burn very easily. It will not start burning because it will just promote the softening and melting. The material slightly start softening, and some physical transition may take place, but it will generate the flammable gas. So that itself is not safe. But if you increase the heat intensity of the heat flux, if it goes to double, if it becomes double, say 50 kilowatt per meter square, in that case, what will happen? The material will be fully combusting. Okay, so for example, if there is a place where the heat flux, whichever, when any kind of an accident taking place, when the heat flux generated is say 50 kilowatt per meter square, so in that case, what will happen? That 50 kilowatt per meter square heat is sufficient enough actually to make all the material to burn. In case, for example, if you further increase the heat flux to 100 kilowatt per meter square, that is too high. Even in the case of a big theater, that theater where there are huge chairs are kept, which contain some flammable materials like upholstery or anything, if that want to burn, that 100 kilowatt per meter square can create a flashover. Okay, flashover, it is something where in a closed space where there is not enough oxygen, so without that enough oxygen exposure also, the heat flux, whichever the intensity of heat is that much high, so that it can create very rapid ignition, and it will all material will become combustible in that particular confined space. It can create the burning reaction. Okay, so that the burning reaction will be so rapid and generation of flammable gases will be too high, so that it will be too dangerous. Okay, that is called the flashover. But whereas if it is like a fuel or a pool fire or a forest fire, where there is in a forest, you may have observed the change in the nature's change with the time. There may be some spark because of some spark or some natural thing. There may be generation of forest fires. Those forest fires usually burn the whole forest with a very high heat intensity. For that heat intensity may go, the heat flux may be much higher than the accidents that is happening in the confined big spaces like theaters. It may be around 150 kilowatt per meter square. Okay, so what is your learning from this heat flux? So whenever you claim the textile material, when you are using a textile material and saying that it is a flame retardant or a flame proof textile material, in that case you should also check whether the heat flux under what area that fabric or garment the material is going to be used, whether that can sustain that much heat flux. Okay, so if that is also important. It's not just a flame means any kind of a flame. If you just claim the material as a flame retardant, and if you just burn it by using a stove or a candle and say that it is not burning, so it is flame retardant, but it is not enough. For example, if in a particular accident taking place, we do not know at what situation it will take place. The fire intensity may be at any level. It may be in a less intensity, like a 25 kilowatt per meter square, or 50 kilowatt per meter square, or 100 kilowatt per meter square. We do not know. In that kind of a very high intensity, whether the textile material, whether it is able to sustain that kind of a heat flux. So that is the reason why we need to know the importance of this heat flux. For this, there is a separate instrument is there to check whether the material is able to sustain that much of a heat flux. In that particular heat flux, what is the burning behavior of the textile material? That is also there. Okay, so heat flux is one of the important things which you need to know from the heat and flame protection for the textile fibers. So this is a table for the basic textile materials. If you see like normal material which we use in the day-to-day life, like wool, cotton, viscose rayon, nylon 6X, polyester, acrylic, polypropylene. These materials, most of the materials we use in the day-to-day life, especially the cotton, viscose, and polyester, etc. Even acrylic also we use. So these materials, along with that, there are some other high-performance fibers. You can see meta-aramid and para-aramid. If you observe this table, you can see there are some 6 columns. One is called the TG, TM, TP, TI, TF, and LY. I have already. I hope you all may be knowing what is this. What are these parameters? This is the glass transition temperature. This is the melting temperature. This is the pyrolysis temperature, and this is the ignition temperature. At what temperature it will burn. So all these things we have seen. Then this is the LOI. Okay. So you see the LOI of the cellulosic fibers like cotton or viscose is the lowest. You can see around 18.9. Even for acrylic, it is much lesser than cotton. It will very easily burn at the normal environment. But whereas if you see wool has a inherently higher good flame retardancy. We have seen what is the reason behind the wool's inherent flame retardancy. The LOI value is higher. Okay. And if you see some fibers like mod acrylic or PVC, that also has a good LOI values, higher LOI values, around say above 25. If any LOI value is above 24, that is a good. But if you want to achieve a very good flame retardancy where the material will not easily catch fire, in that case you have to use some special kind of a fibers. For example, say high performance. The number of high performance fibers are there, like aramid or glass or basalt or ceramic. Those kind of fibers are there which have the inherently flame retardancy, because that is by nature, because of the chemical reactions the precursors which are used to make they make a material. That material by itself has a very high flame retardancy that may not require a finishing at all. Okay, but whereas for these materials which are highly sensitive to temperature, these materials definitely require the use of flame retardant finishing. Okay, like cotton, viscose, nylon, polyester, or acrylic, these definitely require the flame retardant finishing. So that we are going to see now. See, this is the example of this heat flux which I have just explained you. You can just appreciate this practically. You can see, for example, this is a mannequin where the person is wearing a firefighter suit. So they are just testing it. For example, this firefighter suit, it is made up of a high performance fiber like Nomex and Kevlar from the DuPont company. They are just testing it whether at this heat intensity, whether the garment is able to sustain that much fire. Okay, so this is before testing. You can see this is during the fire exposure of say around 84 kilowatt per meter square. For 8 seconds, this much heat intensity is given, so that whether garment, whether it is a person, the garment, whether it is able to sustain that much fire. Then this is after testing. So this is just to show that how in a kind of a flashover kind of a situation, which we have just seen in the previous discussion between these two region, 50 to 100, in the very high heat intensity. In this height of heat intensity, whether the person is able to protect himself because of the presence of the flame proof garment that is his flame resistant garment that he is wearing. That is tested. Okay, this is how the heat flux, this is the importance of heat flux. It is tested. Why it is required. Okay, in a kind of a very high heat intensity, whether that person is able to protect himself from that kind of a flame. Okay, so ultimately this flame resistance, it is not to protect the textile, it is to protect the property, and importantly it is used to protect the life. Okay, it is used to protect the human being. Okay, so now I think you may be clear about what is the importance of heat flux. So whenever you design or select the fire protective textiles, there are some important points you should remember. First thing is that the fundamental thermal or burning behavior of textile fibers. Okay, this is the burning behavior. You can just see what is the glass transition temperature, what is the melting temperature, what is the ignition temperature, what is the softening temperature, what is the pyrolysis temperature, what is the decomposition temperature of this fiber. These things you should know. If you are a designer of the fire protective textiles, then the influence of fabric structure and garment or product shape, whether that fabric structure, whether it is a very thin fabric or a very thick fabric, what is the GSM, okay, what are the ends and picks per inch, whether that fabric structure, whether it is able to catch fire very easily, whether it is a limpy fabric or it is a very denser fabric. Then next is the geometry in which the textile is used, whether the textile material, whether it is used in the vertical shape or it is used in the horizontal shape, what type of a shape it is exposed, the flame will be exposed. And the next important, most important thing is that the possible selection of non-toxic smoke-free flame retardant additives. Okay. So if you just notice in the fire accidents, when it is taking place, it is not just the flame that kills the human being. It is the importantly the smoke that is generated. Okay, many, if you just recall our discussion of the first lecture, when I started explaining you this thing, you can see this smoke led to the baby suffocating. Okay, from the flame retardant chemical that you are using, that chemical should actually prevent the flame propagation, but that should not lead to any kind of a smoke generation, because many accidents you see people die because of the suffocation. Okay, so that is important. Then next is the design of the protective garment depending upon the usage and comfort, because if you make a design a flame retardant garment, that should also be comfort to wear. It should not, for example, if a person is wearing a flame retardant garment, that should not create any kind of a uncomfortable thing, like where there is a more generation of sweat or there is no moisture vapor transmission. That is not desirable. Okay, and next is the intensity of the ignition source that we have just discussed, which is called the heat flux. How much heat intensity will be there in the particular end use. Okay, the next is the oxygen supply, the place wherever this garment is going to be used for a firefighter, what is the oxygen supply that place. So these things should be kept in mind when you design the flame protective garment. Okay, so now we will see some mechanisms of flame retardancy. Okay, so here the mechanisms, why we are discussing, because we are going to now discuss about the mechanisms where some chemicals are going to be used for finishing. Okay, for especially fibers like cotton, viscose rayon, polyester, nylon, acrylic, these kind of fibers which are not safe from the point of view of flame retardancy, because they by itself it is not inherently flame retardant, it is highly flammable. So how to provide the flame retardancy for that? For that, some chemical finish has to be used. What mechanisms does those chemicals work? So that we are going to see now. For example, if you see in the mechanism of flame retardancy, there are two important mechanisms which you should know. Okay, one is called the condensed phase, or it is called the solid phase. Another is called the gas phase, or is the vapor phase. Both are different. This is the condensed phase or solid phase. This is the gas or vapor phase. Okay. For example, you are having a fabric that is finished with some chemical. That chemical works in the condensed or solid phase. Okay. For example, say you are using a phosphorus-based compound. For example, let us assume that this surface is finished. This fabric is finished with some phosphorus-containing compound. Okay. So now I am exposing it to flame. I am just burning this fabric. So how this fabric will definitely give the flame retardancy. How it gives the flame retardancy, that we need to know. Okay, what it does, it alters the path of decomposition. Okay, so how it alters the path of decomposition? First thing is that you need to know is that this chemical phosphorus, it will work in the condensed or solid phase. So what it does, importantly, it will form a protective layer around the pyralizing source of flame. For example, this fabric surface will form a protective layer. Okay, if it forms a protective layer, then what will happen? When it is exposed to flame in some particular area, it is exposed to flame, it will not easily allow to undergo the pyrolysis reaction. Okay, if you just recall our discussion on the combustion cycle, just to see how the flame is propagating, you can see when the heat is given to fiber, the immediate reaction is the pyrolysis. Okay, because of the pyrolysis only, you generate some gases, non-flammable gases, liquid condensates, some liquidish tar material, or some non-flammable gases, some chars. These things are formed. But during the pyrolysis itself, if it is controlled, because of the formation of a protective layer around the surface, so that what will happen? It will not easily undergo the pyrolysis reaction. Okay. And another thing is, it will reduce the temperature of decomposition. Okay, because you see, whenever the flame is applied, what will happen? It will alter the path of the decomposition. See, if you just see this figure, once it gets pyrolized, because of the presence of flammable gases, the material with the presence of oxygen, it starts burning at a very high intensity. For example, if the because of this, if this pyrolysis path is, if it is altered, okay, because of the addition of some chemical like phosphorus, in that case, what will happen? It will lead to producing some chemicals. That chemical will react with the flammable gases to reduce the flammability. Okay, so here itself you create a block. Okay, so the phosphorus-based compounds, when it is burned, that will release some chemicals. It will convert it to phosphoric acid. Okay, phosphorus, when you use any phosphorus in any form, like phosphorus chloride or phosphorus oxides, if you are using, that will lead to production of some phosphoric acid. That will actually dilute this flammable gases. Okay, that will dilute this flammable gases. It will actually create some dehydration. It will dilute the flammable gases, so that it will not allow the flame propagation. So that what it will do, it will alter the path of decomposition, reduce the formation of combustibles like tars and gases. Because you see, it is because of the generation of this combustible tars and other gases, further opportunity of burning becomes possible. If that is controlled here, because of the use of some protective layer that you are using, which work in the solid phase, that will generate some flammable gases, if that itself is diluted because of the use of chemicals like phosphorus, where the phosphorus will convert into phosphoric acid, that phosphoric acid will create some dilution that will dilute the flammable gases, so that your flame what will happen? The flammable gases do not have the opportunity to further propagate the flame, so that the decomposition path is altered. It will not be straight. Okay, if somewhere it is controlled here, so that further, if it undergoes, even if the oxygen supply is there, it will not burn. Okay, so that is how it works. And importantly, they interrupt the combustion process by promoting the charring. Okay, so you just need to understand what is meant by char. Okay, char, it is the partially burned substance is called the char. carbonaceous material. These are partially burned, which is called the carbonaceous kind of a blackish material. If you want to know what is char, you can just take a flame proof garment or anything and just apply flame and then just remove the flame. You can just see it will just self extinguish and the material will form a blackish kind of a partially burned sample. You may observe some blackish material. Okay, that is called the char formation. This char formation happened because of the addition of the phosphorus based compounds. That phosphorus based compounds actually made this promoted this char formation. Okay, so that you need to know how this condensed phase or solid phase works. Okay, for more clarity I will just explain you on cellulose actually what happens. Okay, so this one thing you need to understand. If you take cellulosic fiber, any cellulosic fiber, like whether it is a cotton or it is the viscose rayon or any kind of a cellulose fiber where the cellulose is present. Why cellulose? It is highly dangerous when you apply flame. Why it burns so rapidly? See, for example, this is the structure of cellulose. You can see here. Okay, this is a normal cellulose where it is not treated with any chemical. You cannot finish it with any flame retardant chemical. So what does it do? If you apply a very high temperature like 350 degrees centigrade, if you are applying, what will happen? It will actually break down to produce some compound called the levoglucosan. Okay, this levoglucosan, you can see it is a 6-membered ring structure. This one, it is formed by the pyrolysis of carbohydrate, like whether if you burn the starch or cellulose, this compound will get formed. Okay, so this compound, it is a highly flammable compound. Okay, it is highly flammable. Highly flammable in the sense it will easily promote burning. So when you add this phosphorus based compounds in the as a finishing agent to the cellulose, what will happen? Their phosphorus will form some crosslinks with this kind of a cellulose, so that what will happen? It will alter the path of pyrolysis. Okay, so it will alter the path of pyrolysis. For example, you can see here, this is the cellulose, cell OH. You can see here cell, this is OH, hydroxyl group, this is cell OH. Okay, so it forms some crosslinks with the phosphorus based compounds. When you add some phosphorus based compounds through any kind of a phosphorus oxide or phosphorus chloride, what will happen? It will form some compound, it will form some crosslinks like crosslinks, so that when you burn, what will happen? It will generate some acids like phosphoric acid. Okay, this phosphoric acids, you can see here, this phosphoric acid, it will actually react with the flammable gases to dilute them. Okay, just you dilute them. For example, in a place where there is a huge fire, if you are taking a mug of water and put it, what will happen? The flame, just the intensity of the flame rapidly, immediately it reduces. The whatever water you have added, that will just convert into vapor. Okay, like this here, this levoglucosan is a very dangerous kind of material where it will promote the burning. That levoglucosan formation, it is prevented. That levoglucosan formation is prevented by the addition of the phosphorus. Okay, this is how this condensed or solid phase flame retardancy works. Okay, so that you need to know. And I hope now you have understood what is meant by condensed phase or a solid phase. The next is called the PN synergism. Okay, see, for this flame retardant finishing on cellulose, you can add not only phosphorus, you can add some other gases also, like nitrogen. You can mix it with some nitrogen, say any kind of a nitrogen source like ammonia. You can mix an ammonia with phosphorus. Ammonia, what is the source of ammonia? Urea is the best source of ammonia. So that urea and phosphorus, if you mix and then make a coating over the fabric, what will happen? This will act as a synergist. Okay, synergist in the sense that will not work alone. But if it joins with some 2-3 compounds, it will work together. Okay, like a synergist, where it will, so that alone will not work, but it will, if it is joined with some other chemical, that will promote the flame retardancy. Okay, see, for example, if you are taking ammonium phosphate and urea, both you are mixing and then you are applying as a finishing chemical to the textile material like cellulose, because of the presence of nitrogen and phosphorus, this both will act to provide the flame retardancy. So you know very well, nitrogen is an inert gas. It will normally be used for cleaning any kind of a melt spinning unit you see. For the initially to prevent any kind of a moisture, this purging is done by the nitrogen only. Okay, that is the mechanism. So finally, you need to understand that for the cellulose-based material, there are number of flame retardant compounds are available, but the commercially successful one is the phosphorus-based compounds. And how it works? It alters the path of pyrolysis by preventing the formation of levoglucosan. Levoglucosan is a flammable volatile that you need to understand, because these mechanisms are important for you to learn. Okay, and for along with phosphorus, you can add nitrogen so that it will promote some synergism in the flame retardancy. Then next is the gas or vapor phase. What is this gas or vapor phase? The chemical, whatever you are using as a finishing agent, that is going to act in the gas or vapor phase. Okay, so you see this gas or vapor phase, it is mainly for the synthetic fibers. For example, if you see synthetic fibers like polyester, nylon, acrylic, polypropylene, these kind of thermoplastic fibers, you will use some different chemical as a finishing agent. That chemicals will work in the gas or vapor phase. Okay, so here also some mechanism understanding is important to be understood. For example, you see there is a textile material here. This is the textile material. You have finished this with some chemical like chlorine or bromine. You have used any kind of a chlorine source like some chlorinated kind of a product that you have used as a finishing agent, or a brominated product you have used. So how will it work in the gas phase? So in this 4 important points, you need to remember how does this work. Okay, so what is that? For example, if you treat this flame retardant finished polyester with chlorine, you have treated with the chlorine to give the flame retardancy, and you are just exposing it to flame. So in this, what will happen is, first thing is the endothermic degradation. If you just recall our combustion cycle discussion, if you just heat the fiber, immediately it is the endothermic degradation, because the heat is absorbed. Okay, so here what will happen? This fiber, whichever we are discussing now in the gas or vapor phase, this fiber is finished with the chlorine or brominated compound. So what this compound will do, how it will work in the gas phase? Unlike the previous one, like solid phase, this is something different. Here what will happen is, the fiber, first it will undergo the endothermic degradation, because you have exposed it to flame. That fabric contains chlorine. What does that chlorine will do? That chlorine will first degrade. Okay, it will, that chlorine which is present in that will degrade, and it will reduce the oxygen diffusion. Okay, though, for example, you know very well that if you just recall our discussion on fire triangle, when only fuel is not sufficient enough to burn, for you need a fuel and an oxygen supply and a light spark, then only the fire will start. Okay, for example, if you just cut down this oxygen supply, what will happen? It will not burn. Okay, it will not burn. So here it reduces the oxygen diffusion. The chlorine, whichever you have coated, you have applied as a finishing agent, that will reduce the oxygen diffusion. Oxygen will not penetrate inside the textile material. So the burning thing has been reduced. And next is the dilution of flammable gases. This is very important. For example, you see the chlorine, when the material which is containing the fabric which is finished with chlorine or bromine, if it is burnt, that will generate some gases. Okay, that will generate some gases, and that will dilute the flammable gases. Okay, so that will dilute the flammable gases. Just to go to the same figure, wherever here the pyrolysis place where there is some generation of char or a liquidish tar or some non-flammable gases. So here it will finally lead to production of flammable gases only. So if it is finished with the chlorine or bromine, it will not produce the flammable gases. It will produce the non-flammable gas. That is more important to know. It will produce a non-flammable gas that will dilute the flammable gas. Okay, so the dilution, if it is diluted, what will happen? As I have given you an example, in a place where there is a fire, so that you take a mug of water and then put it on the fire. So what will happen? The fire just extinguishes the water, whichever you have added, that is converted into vapor, like a steam or something. Okay, so like that, here what happened, the chemical whichever you have added, that itself undergoes a degradation, and that will dilute the flammable gas. Okay, so that is why it is called the vapor phase, because the material itself will degrade and then it will convert into, it will dilute the flammable gases. And the next important thing which you need to know is the free radicals, quenching of free radicals. So you just remember one thing, all the reactions when this flame, when the flame propagation is happening, like combustion reactions, all these are free radical reactions which happen very fast. Okay, generation of free radical leads to more flame. Okay, so the chemical whichever you have added, that will actually quench the free radical. It will just quench it, so that what will happen, the production of free radicals is stopped, it is controlled, it is obstructed. So if the production of free radicals is quenched, then what will happen? Definitely there is a further propagation of flame, it not becomes difficult. So this is how this gas or vapor phase works. Okay, and this gas or vapor phase is actually for the synthetic fibers, thermoplastic fibers like polyester, acrylic, then nylon or other thermoplastic fibers, where you use some chlorinated or brominated kind of a chemical that will work in the gas or vapor phase. Okay, so these two mechanisms are very important to know how this mechanism of flame retardancy is working. Okay, so today I think I have covered enough chemistry for you. So you go through the lecture, you can understand this interesting kind of a mechanism. So I am stopping here for today. If you have a doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, we can stop here for today.